Good evening everyone, welcome to a brief update from Oz Cyclone Chasers. My name's Chris Nitsopoulos. We're talking tonight about the end of Tropical Cyclone June, we're talking about the rainfall in the Pilbara and the upcoming tropical lows in the Coral Sea and also the Western Australian region. So let's get into it. Ex-tropical cyclone June is now located to the northwest of Norfolk Island. However, while it's not a tropical cyclone, the Bureau is still continuing to issue tropical cyclone advices for the system, purely and simply because the system is expected to give Norfolk Island the type of conditions you'd expect with a Category 1 cyclone. Now by 6 AM tomorrow there still will be some wind around Norfolk Island, but all the rain should have cleared the region, and then by around lunchtime tomorrow it should be all over. So at this point in time, looking at winds of possibly up to 100 kilometers an hour, let's have a look at how that looks like on high resolution model imagery. So this evening we can see that the area here around Norfolk Island is receiving or are receiving gales from the north-northeast as the system tracks way out here to the west of the island. It's off your screen actually, the centre of the system out in this region. You can see that the winds become more northerly, still looking at 35 to 40 knot sustained winds there through to early tomorrow morning. They tend northwesterly tomorrow morning, and then they don't actually start to ease until around about breakfast time tomorrow. So around about 7 AM Queensland time, about 8:30 in Norfolk Island time is when we start to get back to the winds that you'd expect in a strong wind warning, so 25 to 30 knots there by tomorrow morning. After that, things ease off reasonably quickly and there's not too much in the way of rainfall. In fact, if we look at rainfall for Norfolk Island at this point in time, we can see that actually most of the heavy falls for the island itself are now finished. This is at 4 PM Queensland time, 7 PM Queensland time, 10 PM, 1 AM, 4 AM, 7 AM and 10 AM Queensland time. Add an hour and a half for Norfolk Island time, and you can see really the heavy rainfall is now over. So the heavy rain threat is pretty well finished. All it is now is some very, very gusty and strong winds that are potentially getting up to about 100 kilometers an hour or so over the next 12 to 18 hours. Alright, that's where we'll leave Tropical Cyclone June. That is the end of Tropical Cyclone June. She'll continue down towards New Zealand. There will be no recurve back towards Australia, and we can pretty well tell you that's a done deal. Looking at the Western Australian tropical low, it is moving west at a great rate of knots towards the Pilbara coastline at the moment. It's maintaining its structure reasonably well. Once again, the last couple of images on satellite, it has sort of weakened its mid-level structure, but overall, it's been an absolute amazing system. Really, what you'd almost call a land foon over the over the Australian desert. And you can see here, it just continues to stream in this really, really thick thunderstorm, really heavy thunderstorm clouds through the inland parts of WA, through the western parts of the Northern Territory, and it's going to continue moving in a westerly direction for another 12 to 18 hours before developing a more southwesterly track as it nears the coast. As it nears the coast, we're going to see an increase in rainfall on the coast because it's going to bring in some very strong or fairly strong monsoonal northwesterly winds coming in here, and they will pump a lot of moisture into the coastal region between sort of Port Hedland and Broome. So this particular region of the coast expecting some pretty heavy falls of rain over the next 24 to 48 hours. There is still a chance of this system getting offshore and forming into a tropical cyclone, but that chance is quite remote, so it's not something that we would expect to happen. It is something that's in the improbable basket rather than impossible, but we're looking at maybe 10%, maybe 15% chance of it getting offshore and reforming into a TC. Not expected to do so. If it does push offshore, it may push offshore a little bit too far to the south, where the water temperatures are not as hot and not as conducive for formation of this system offshore. Pretty well what the Bureau is saying here. It is expected to weaken over the next couple of days, but it's expected to also bring significant rain to the East Pilbara, East Gascoyne, central and northern parts of the interior over the next few days. But once again, looking at a very low percentage chance of the system pushing offshore and forming into a TC again. So really, there's nothing there's nothing that is on the cards here for WA from this system as a cyclone threat. However, in the future, we are looking at a new tropical low on the weekend, pushing around the North Kimberley coastline, pushing westwards off the coast, and we'll talk about that one shortly. Having a look at what this tropical low has brought to the region, we can see that the western top end coastline of the Northern Territory in the past week has seen 300 to 400 millimetres of rain in general. So that's an amazing amount of rainfall, and that pushes inland all the way into the desert, where we've seen 200 to 300 millimetres in the past week in the desert. Can I just stress that's in the desert? So that's an amazing amount of rainfall in there in 1 week. That's the entire year's average rainfall in 1 week. So that's an impressive amount of rain. Now that rain will push to the west, and we will see that rain increasing on that Pilbara coastline and then the adjacent inland regions as well over the next 3 or 4 days. Now, elsewhere along the southern Gulf, we've already talked about that in the last few video updates about how this amazing amount of rainfall has fallen here. There's been parts here that have received up to half a metre of rain in the past week, and also over the far north Queensland coast, there's been bits here that have received 200 millimetres or so in the past week in a very, very fresh onshore stream. Also up here in the northern parts of the peninsula, we've seen a very good convergence zone sort of perch itself right over the top of basically just to the north of Weipa, and just sat there for days and days and days, and those areas have also received 300 plus millimetres as well. So the monsoon is in full swing. Unfortunately for most of Queensland, which is now drought declared, in fact the bulk of Queensland is drought declared, 60% of Queensland is now drought declared, none of that rain is seeping into those really needy areas. So as we head to Monday and looking at rainfall over northern Australia, it's really limited to the northwestern half of Australia, where we see that low continuing to push in a westerly direction and bringing in falls of 50 to 100 millimetres over inland parts. 50 to 100 as well, pushing between that area, I told you, between Broome and Port Hedland. So that region there will see some really decent rainfall tomorrow. That decent rainfall continues in that Broome to Port Hedland region, pushing a little bit further to the west as well, maybe just getting at the edge of it, getting into Karratha. And we've also got a lot of rain seeping into the central parts of Western Australia, and still joined up to a very moist northerly flow here to the east, to the northeast, so moisture coming in from the Gulf of Carpentaria and the Arafura Sea all through the central parts of the Northern Territory as well. The Queensland region remaining fairly dry as we head into Tuesday as well. By Wednesday, we start to see that low pushing more in a southerly direction or south-southwesterly direction, so that rain pushes southwards with it into the goldfields. We also see there's still a little bit of lingering shower and storm activity here between Broome and Port Hedland again over the Wednesday period. That rainfall over the central parts of the territory starts to weaken out. We start to see an increase in rain over the coastal parts of the territory. Queensland, we start to see a little bit of moisture seeping back into the northern or far northern coastline of Queensland, so we do start to see some shower activity developing there by Wednesday. And then as we head towards Thursday, we see more and more shower activity developing on that north coast of Queensland. We see some shower activity starting to form over the southeastern parts of Queensland too. That's important because that's going to determine where the new tropical low will go, so we'll talk a bit more about this shortly. We've also got a lot more activity around the Gulf, and also the top end coast remaining fairly active as well. Things start to ease off big time in the Kimberley and Pilbara as the system pushes in a southward direction. We get some dry air pushing in behind it on the Thursday. So from now until Australia Day, we can see that by the time Australia Day hits, most of the northern half of the continent should have received some rain. Unfortunately, the weakest signal of rain is over the Queensland region, anywhere from about Townsville southwards to about Brisbane. We're not going to see too much rainfall along that coastline. There is a chance of some inland showers and storms in this region here. Look, I'm harping on this region because it is the worst drought declared area of the country, so we do need to really focus and look at what sort of rainfall this area will get. Over the Gulf, we're going to continue to see that monsoonal flow, so we're going to see a lot of rain on the Western Peninsula. We're going to see a lot of rain over the top end. Look, some modelling suggesting 300 to 400 millimetres still again on the Western top end over the next week. The next 4 days looking pretty slack, but after that, it looks like a new tropical low forming out here, and therefore we're going to see an increase in moisture there and an increase in rainfall. and things will start to ease over the Western Australian region later on in the 7-day period, but be aware that this new low starts to form out here in the Australia Day weekend, so that will start to increase rainfall again over the North Kimberley. Okay, I guess what a lot of people are interested in is what's going to happen in the next week with regarding to tropical low development, and we've been alluding to it on our social media site that we are expecting a tropical low to form somewhere in the far eastern Coral Sea, and we're also expecting a tropical low to form somewhere up here and track in a southwest or westerly direction. So let's have a look at the GFS ensemble, and this is a whole bunch of GFS models run this morning, and we can see this is what we call a spaghetti plot, and what we're looking for are areas of circles that are closely and tightly packed here. So this particular area here is showing the low that's currently over WA, so it's got that spot on, and this particular area here is showing ex-tropical cyclone June. Now this is for today. Now as we head into tomorrow, we can see that there's still fairly tight agreement that that tropical low over WA is going to be pretty close to the Pilbara coast. We can also see that ex-tropical cyclone June by tomorrow is almost at the North Island of New Zealand. Now let's have a look what happens in 2 days' time. Once again, we can see both of those systems, fairly good model agreement. Let's have a look what happens by Wednesday. Wednesday, we continue to see the tropical low over the Pilbara. We interestingly though start to see the development of perhaps in some of the model members, or very few of the model members, a tropical low in the Gulf of Carpentaria. If we continue tracking that low, we see that it pushes slowly to the west at the 96-hour time frame, so that's on the Thursday. Now as we head to the Friday, we can see that that tropical low over the Gulf pushes over the base of the top end and will continue pushing in a westerly direction. So by Saturday, it's located very close to the North Kimberley coastline, as the Bureau of Meteorology have said in their tropical cyclone outlook. So you can see it's got very good confidence that we're going to see something out there. The other thing we start to see by Saturday is tropical low possible formation here in the Coral Sea. Now as we head towards Sunday, you're going to see that area increase, or the potential increase in Sunday, and if we look at Sunday, we have a whole bunch of this region here where tropical cyclone, or tropical low I should say, development could happen in. Now bearing in mind that that's a huge area, that starts out near the Solomon Islands all the way through to just off the North Queensland coastline by Sunday. So this is where we start to lose confidence in the forecast modelling. See how these circles are nowhere near as tightly packed as they were up until Saturday. So by the Sunday, we really are starting to see less model agreement, and we're starting to see new possible developments over the southern Gulf. So really we can only go ahead out to about Saturday with any sort of confidence, and we can see that the real confidence that we've got is the tropical low over the Gulf pushing westwards over the base of the top end and developing or getting to the North Kimberley coastline. So that's about as far as we can go on the GFS model, because after that it goes a little silly. If we go through to the Sunday and then through to the Monday, we see that by Monday we have potentially tropical lows all the way through from the centre part of the Gulf all the way through to Vanuatu. Now obviously we're not going to see lows all through that, we're going to see one low, but where in that region the model can't tell us and the ensemble can't tell us, so we've got no confidence in that forecast. So over the Western Australian region though, we do have a lot more confidence in the fact that there's probably going to be a tropical low somewhere between Derby and Exmouth. Now whether that's a cyclone or not, no confidence once again, but we know that there's fairly high degree of confidence that there's going to be something in that area, but it's just a matter of where in that area. Over the Coral Sea, no such luck. When we flick over to the European next Saturday, we see the same type of thing. The European expecting a tropical low somewhere in this region here by next Saturday. They're also expecting an area of low pressure, broad area of low pressure here in the eastern or northeastern Coral Sea near the Vanuatu, or just to the west of the Vanuatu region. Now that's on Saturday. As we head towards Sunday, we start to see an area of low pressure really forming just to the north of New Caledonia, between New Caledonia and Vanuatu. But anywhere sort of this region in here is where it's favoured to form. You can also see that the European isn't as bullish with the Western Australian system by next Sunday, and doesn't really form anything more in that system by Sunday. Now, as we head towards Monday, we see that the system here in the Coral Sea is likely to either remain fairly stationary or start to push in a south to southeast direction. We start to see a little bit more interest in the model guidance off the Pilbara coastline here by Monday the 27th. And then as we head towards the extreme long range, be aware that this is now, we're looking a long way ahead, and there's a lot of changes likely to happen here, because we start to lose forecast confidence again by the 9 or 10 day time frame in the European. We see that that tropical low region out here to the north or northwest of New Caledonia remaining in the Coral Sea. And then just for a interest's sake, we go out to Wednesday the 29th. We see that that region remains in the same area, so it's likely to be fairly slow moving. It's not likely to take a quick dip down to the southeast, but also not likely to move too far to the west. Now, initial guidance suggests that there's going to be a low out here and it will push west, but once again, as happened with the tropical cyclone June recently, an upper trough comes through the Coral Sea and smacks it back down to the south, or stops it in its track and then pushes it back to the south. We're hoping it's not deja vu, but the signs aren't good for that particular system to be coming towards the coast. It's more likely to push in a southerly direction at this point in time. But once again, the Coral Sea is one of those places we can't look too far ahead in, because if that upper trough doesn't amplify as far, then we're starting to talk that westerly motion again. So looking at Thursday morning on the higher resolution European imagery, we can see that the model in the Euro is struggling with a number of different eddies. We can see one eddy here, we can see another eddy here, we can see another eddy here, we can see another eddy here. So it really is struggling, oh, and another one there. Now it's really struggling as to which one of these becomes the dominant circulation, and until it starts to decide which one of those becomes the dominant circulation, we can't go too far ahead in the forecast, because if the more western circulation becomes the dominant feature, then we're looking at the potential of that system pushing more to the west. If this particular eastern system becomes the dominant circulation, then we're looking more at a southwest, south, and then southeast motion of this particular system. So really, folks, we can't look too far ahead. Thursday morning is about as far as I'm willing to look ahead with these things. But at this stage, as I say, later on in the forecast, what we can do is take a quick look at the overall upper level steering flow as we head towards the weekend, and we can see that by around about Saturday or Sunday we start to see the development of this thing here, this upper level trough through the Coral Sea, and that's not good news if you're looking for this Coral Sea system to push in a westerly direction. It's not going to happen with an upper trough developing and amplifying northwards into the central Coral Sea. The only option, the only chance this would have of pushing towards the coast and avoiding that upper trough is if it remained in the northern Coral Sea, and if it remained a little bit further to the west. So that's why I say we can't definitively tell you it's going to push away from the coast, but we can't also tell you it's going to push towards the coast just yet. Yesterday's model guidance was suggesting definite push towards the west. Today's model guidance is suggesting a push more towards the south. But it's still so far ahead that we're not willing to look ahead past about Thursday or Friday at this point in time, because we're not sure, and we see that the model is definitely struggling with the amount of circulations and the amount of eddies on the monsoon trough. So until it gets a better idea of what it wants to do and which one it wants to form, we can't go any further and give you any sort of confidence with where this is going. Over the Gulf of Carpentaria low, though, we can tell you fairly confidently that that will move westerly. You can see here the upper level conditions out here throughout the entire period. We've got a nice big upper level high over Central Australia and Western Australia. So anything at all that forms in the Gulf of Carpentaria will push in that westerly direction. Alright folks, so that's all we have time for tonight. And since there are no tropical cyclone threats over the next couple of days at least, we're not going to update you now until Tuesday night. So we'll do every 2 nights. There's nothing really that's going to change between now and Tuesday. By Tuesday night, we're hoping to have a pretty good idea of which Coral Sea circulation will become dominant. We'll have a fair idea at how far that upper trough amplifies, and so we'll be able to give you a bit better guidance on whether the thing will push southeast away from Queensland, whether the thing will push southwest towards or west towards Queensland, and we should have a fairly good idea about where the Gulf of Carpentaria / Northern Territory low will be by then as well. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again Tuesday night. Good night.